By the end of the 19th century, Galveston had grown from a small settlement into the largest city in Texas and one of the wealthiest cities in the country. With its nearly 40,000 residents, the small barrier island was poised to lead Texas into the new century. Instead, Galveston would spend the beginning of the 20th century rebuilding from America's deadliest natural disaster. Hyman Block remembers the night before the storm.
As far as I can remember, it was a beautiful moonlit night in the summertime in September. I seem to recall that our entire family sat on the front porch and enjoyed the cool breezes. We had no inkling of a severe storm approaching.
On Saturday, November 8, 1900, the Galveston Tribune published stories about wind and water damage along the beach, but for most of the residents, the day started out just like any other Saturday. Catherine Vetter Pauls remembers.
Everyone went about their usual tasks until about 11 a.m., when my brother Jacob and our cousin Alan Brooks came from the beach with the report that the Gulf was very rough and the tide very high.
The day passed like any other rainy day. Mary Mees, 14 at the day of the storm, wrote a letter that described her experiences not long after the storm itself.
On Saturday it rained and the wind blew hard all day, but we were used to that, and toward evening the bayou began to rise, but we were not afraid of it because it had been very high before.
However, as the afternoon headed into evening, residents slowly began to realize the storm might be different than the ones before. Hyman Block.
Our first realization of something bad was about 4 o'clock in the afternoon. We noticed lumber floating by.
Mary Mees.
About 6:30 we had supper, washed the dishes, and had everything put away. Our house was shaking very badly by that time, and we were all in a room together. Papa and I went to the back gallery, and I said, "Oh, Papa, look." The porch was half down, so we went in after Nick and Maggie. During that time, every window pane blew out.
Mary's house wasn't the only one to be wiped out by the storm. 3,600 buildings were destroyed on the island, where water reached a high mark of 15.7 feet. Elena Edwards Nilsson remembers her home falling apart around her. Suddenly, the wind blew in, and so they took the wardrobe and put it against the window. That blew down like a piece of paper. Then the gallery went. Then, in a few minutes, the house began to go. I was sitting by a table just like that. Suddenly, the house went, just collapsed. We were under water. I never moved. I was sitting on a chair, but when the house came down, I was sitting on the floor. The night passed slowly for Galveston residents as they held on to whatever safety they could find. With the morning sun, they were able to take in the devastation. Again, Catherine Vetter Pauls. There was no smile on any face when the daylight brought a clear view of the yard and surrounding country. Everyone looked to the west where their neighbor's home had stood. A stone throw away, not a plank nor a brick remained, not even a trace of the foundation. Richard Peake, his wife, 8 children, and 2 servants were gone. To this day, their bodies have never been found. Mary Mees. Then we saw no house, no nothing. Everything was gone. They found poor Maggie hanging on a barbed wire fence, drowned. I was waiting for them, and when they came with her covered up on the buggy, it nearly killed me. They found Grandpa Monday at noon, across the bayou in the woods. At least 8,000 people lost their lives in the storm of 1900, though the actual death toll will never be known. But the decimated city rebuilt not just the buildings that were lost or the 17-foot-high storm wall, but its own identity. 10 years after the storm had nearly destroyed it, Galveston transformed itself into the Southwest playground for the wealthy, and later a family destination visited by